Welcome to En Casa con la Plaza. Hello, hello. This is Abelardo de la Peña Jr., direct from La Plaza de Cultura y Arte, mi casa for the day, welcoming you to En Casa con la Plaza. En Casa con la Plaza, 3 times a week, we've been bringing you the best of our community's history, art, and culture from our home to yours via these presentations, conversations, demonstrations, and performances. We've been doing it since April of 2020, almost 1 year ago. On Wednesdays and Fridays, we bring you history, art, and culture, music, thanks to our sponsors, PepsiCo and Kaiser Permanente. If you've joined us on Zoom, please use the chat feature and use the Q&A. Ask questions, make comments. Let us know where you're viewing from. Those of you that have joined us on Facebook, please use the comment section to let us know where you're viewing from. Ask questions, make comments, and we'll take them during the conversation, or save them for later. The topic today: building better robots. What if robots could provide quarantined Californians a safe way to connect outside of their homes, not only for healthcare visits, but also to enjoy cultural activities? Our guest tonight will share her story of growing up in San Gabriel, her work in healthcare that led to research in telepresence robots, and how she supports Latinos in graduate STEM programs via a university-wide annual event she founded. So a lot to talk about today, but please join us. Dr. Véronica Ahumada, Assistant Professor of Health, Informatics, and Human-Robot Interaction at UC Davis. Please join us, Dr. Ahumada.
Thanks, Abelardo. Happy to be here.
Glad to see. Are you zooming in from Davis?
I am zooming in from Davis. So already moved up here. I just have more stuff to pick up, specifically the robots, one of which you're using. I saw your intro.
Well, it was a lot of fun. I've been having a little bit of fun. It's been a challenge to working to use the robot, and I know it has a name.
It's a double robot. So what you're using is a double 2. It's their second model, and I see you put a shirt on it in the background. So that's cool. That's what the kids do. They put a t-shirt on it, and so they personalize it. And I think you may have had some challenges because you have the concrete walls.
Yes.
Right. And so
that's
the
right.
Wi-Fi, the connectivity.
But we'll get to that soon, and we'll actually be doing a demonstration that I recorded earlier today. But please tell us about yourself. You're presently at Davis. First of all, where is Davis? A lot of our viewers may not know.
Davis is west. Well, not west. It's right next to Sacramento. So it's one of the UC's, University of California, and so it's just a little bit, west of Sacramento. So just outside.
All right, and this is like the latest part of your journey of starting off in San Gabriel. So tell us a little bit about your background, your childhood, and what got you involved with this.
Sure. Yeah, I have been at Davis 3 weeks. Today's the 21st, and I started on the 1st of April. So I'm still in the process of moving things. But I was born at LA General, so right downtown, or you can see it on your way in. So I was born in LA General and raised in San Gabriel. So that was kind of the bulk of my childhood. And when we went, I took my sons to drop off the robot. We saw the baptisms happening right next door. And that was actually a really neat memory. I don't remember my baptism, but just all the baptisms at the mission, right? It's always such a huge, huge event. So I was raised in San Gabriel, and I went to San Gabriel High, a little bit of Alhambra High. for a couple years and graduated from there. And then I went to Loma Linda for my undergrad. I had to take a year off. I couldn't afford college right out of high school. So I worked in El Sereno at a manufacturing company. And
Putting things together?
no, I was actually in the office. They built things in the back. And so I did that for a year. And what I learned from that, and why I think it's so important, that you try different jobs. But, what I decided when I worked there was that I did not want to be, I guess, not secretary, admin assistant. And I would like to go to college because that was tedious. Showed up every day and, same thing every day. So I did. I went to college and I went to Loma Linda. So I went a little bit far out. And then after that, after I graduated from college, I went to Georgia and I went to the University of Georgia. I got a master's in education. From there, I went to Montana and I worked in public health. And so working in public health is really how I got into the telehealth, telemedicine technologies. And so after living in Montana for a long time, I decided I wanted to explore the telepresence robots and see if, instead of using them for a physician, if we could use them for children to, so if the technology is of such quality for physicians, if we could use it, for patients, for children. And so then I came back to California after being gone for about 20 years. So that's what brought me back to California.
Well, just to step back in your early life in California in San Gabriel, let's see, were you interested in sciences and health and that kind of thing? What kind of drove you to that kind of career?
I'll tell you, my interest in health is probably shaped by the fact that I have congenital heart defects. And so as a child, I was in the hospital a lot. And so I was born with the congenital heart defects. And so when I was at LA General, after I was born, I was there for like a month or so, maybe longer, because I really struggled. At the time, there wasn't a whole lot of awareness, I think, of congenital heart defects. And then also, they didn't catch it at that time. And so I didn't really know I had congenital heart defects until much later in life. But my childhood in the LA area was really, I was sick a lot. So I was in and out of the hospital. So it's not so much that I had an interest, like, oh, it seemed interesting. No, I was living it, right? And so I would miss school for long periods of time. And when you are low income, you don't, we didn't have a family doctor. So it was like one emergency room after another. And so there's no one really to track that pattern, right? That pattern of your illness and what's happening. And so I was just frequently diagnosed with bronchitis or pneumonia. And so that's kind of where my interest in health started, was I would just notice, stuff in the hospital and what was happening, and everyone saying, oh, just go home and get better. But if going home made you better, nobody would be sick, right? So when you're home, you still get up every morning and you would like to do things, but there's nothing to do when the school has sent you home. So that's where my interest started, or where I started really noticing the population of children who are ill for long periods of time and what that experience is like.
And so being at home a lot and seeing, I guess, children, your neighbors, your schoolmates doing things outside, how would you want to, or how could you interact with them?
I couldn't. I was homesick. And so my brothers would come home and they would tell me, what was happening at school and what was going on, but it wasn't the same as being there. Most of the time when I was, that ill, I was at home on the sofa with the whole day to fill. And sometimes, all they brought me was homework. Somebody would send me homework. And it's not the same doing your schoolwork without seeing the teacher and listening and talking to other children around you. The homework falls flat.
And so once you were diagnosed with knowing what was causing your illness, is that what drove you to study health, to get involved with healthcare itself?
No, interestingly, just being that sick that often was enough. And I was already working in public health when I found out that I had the congenital heart defects that needed repair. So when I was working on the telehealth, telemedicine initiatives and projects for the state, I kept looking at these technologies, and they were for physicians. But physicians have so many tools and technologies, and everything was really geared towards physician use. And so I had the idea, well, what if we could use it for children? And I remembered those experiences of my childhood. I still didn't know I had congenital heart defects, which is crazy.
So in your childhood, were you, the times that you were able to go out and interact with kids, go to school, were you interested in building things? Because robotics has to do with building and with technology, of course, tinkering around. Was that something that you had within you?
Yeah, and I actually have a picture I'd like to share. Let me see how I can do this. Let me open this picture. Nope. I had a friend who sent me a picture, and she reminded me. Let's see if I can share this. What do I do? Just click share screen here?
Share screen, and then you click on the frame that you want to share, and then click on that again. There you go.
There, did it work?
Yes, it did.
All right, so my friend Ileana, she sent me this picture, and you can see, so that's me crouching down. We found an old moped in a garage, and see all these girls. So that's Ileana. She's the one who's like, she's got the pump. We were at the finishing stages there where we were gonna get it going. And we did, we got it going, and we rode it around all over Alhambra for, I don't know, I think the weekend. And then it broke and we couldn't afford the parts.
Well, at least you had a weekend full of fun.
We had a weekend full of fun. And so these were just girls in the neighborhood, and we tinkered with it. And part of, and I'm gonna stop sharing now. Let's see. So what happened with, the reason I knew how to fix the moped is because at Alhambra High, I took industrial arts. And so this is, industrial arts was everything. It was woodwork, it was welding, it was casting metal, it was small motor repair. It was the whole year. You just worked in different segments in industrial arts. And so I was the only girl in it first semester, and then second semester, another girl joined the class. So that was a lot nicer. But I did have this interest in mechanical things and how things work. And I learned a lot in that industrial arts class. And so this fixing the moped, I had actually forgotten about it until Ileana sent me the picture. And then she texted me earlier and reminded me that I also worked on my car. When I went to college, I didn't have a car. So I was working, like I said, in El Sereno. And this man who worked next door, he had a 1976 Toyota Corolla SR5. And when he heard I was going to college, he sold it to me for $350. He was Hungarian, I think. And so he said, an education is really important and you need a car. And so he sold me this car for $350. But, it was old, very old. But back then, the motors were very simple. And so I could fix it. So I rebuilt the alternator. I installed a new carburetor that I bought at Pick Apart. There was a place called Pick Apart, and you could just go through the racks and pick your part. So when I needed a new carburetor, I put in a new carburetor because there was a book. I don't know if anyone with mechanic, there used to be a book for your car, and you could just like go through the pages and figure it all out.
Oh yeah, I remember the books. I used to own a VW van and a big giant book with step-by-step instructions. And you
Yep.
go to your auto parts store and you go to junkyards and
Yeah.
pick them out and put it together yourself. You at
Yeah.
least try.
Yeah. And it was surprising if you studied and you looked at it and you went to the auto parts store with the book and you said, I want to do this, they'd walk you. So I was able the whole time I was in college to repair my car anytime it broke or needed something. And then I would change my own oil just because that's a very inexpensive thing to do. And my college roommate was from Palo Alto and she was on an allowance. I didn't have an allowance, I had to work. So that's why I did it, because I would like to spend my money somewhere else and I could change my own oil. And she discovered that if she changed her own oil, she could also have more money. And so I taught her how to change her oil. So on Sundays, we would go out there. And at the thrift store, we bought ourselves some mechanic coveralls, so that we wouldn't get our nice clothes dirty. So we got those at the thrift store. And so every now and then we'd go out and change our own oil and save, $50, which back then was a lot. And we were in college. So
Every penny counts.
yes, every penny counted for sure. So that industrial arts class served me well, but I did have an interest in how things work and the mechanics of things, and even the electrical components of a car, which again were super simple,
So
but
so
also simple to fix.
you went to right here. Angel Urueta is telling us these were Chilton manuals. Chilton's manuals.
Oh, well, they were gold.
Let's see. Joining us tonight, Mr. Tezo Zamuk. He's from Mission Hills. He remembers he lived that there's a pick apart still today at Sun Valley.
No, pick apart is still around.
Yeah, and then Ileana Sanders, Alhambra in the House, now in Boulder, California.
Yes, Ileana is the one who sent me this picture of the moped and the industrial arts and reminded me about the car. And so that's Ileana in the picture that I showed earlier. So we're still friends.
That's great. So you went to first of all college. You got your BA, and then you
Yes.
got your master's in public health. And then you worked in that field for 20 years. What kind of work did you do in public health?
It was actually a master's in education. I did public health work building on that because it was a master's in the University of Georgia. I was focused like on online learning, adult education. And so when I went to the state, it was work that I could do. Montana has a huge access to care issue, right? And so how do you get care out to people in counties that don't have physicians? And so we were really looking at how we use technology to increase access to healthcare. But my bachelor's was in English. And so this is where the health component comes up again. My mentor for my undergraduate honors thesis was Rodolfo Anaya. So I don't know if you're familiar with Rodolfo. And this is, in the 90s, he had time. And so he would talk to, I called him and I said, I'm thinking of doing my honors thesis on your contributions to Southwestern literature. And this was kind of before he had gotten such, enormous accolades. And he was like, sure, I'm happy to do it. And so he took the time and I went to visit him in Albuquerque. Super nice person. And he took the time and he started to talk about Bless Me Ultima, which is his big book. And then he kind of noticed I wasn't that interested in it. And he said, okay, he said, I don't even know if you're listening. What are you interested in? Like which one of my works brought you here? And I said, Tortuga. And I don't know if you've read Tortuga. It's one of his, I think it's a well-known book, but it's about an experience he had. He had an accident when he was in high school. And so he couldn't move for a long time. And so he was in bed. And so he wrote this book about children in the polio machines. And so they're like the turtles with the shells. And it's a beautiful, beautiful book. But that's what we talked about. We talked about health, about being restricted to your home, about not being able to participate in life. And so anyway, so when I wrote my honors thesis, it was centered around that very basic human experience of illness and unintentional injury, and how suddenly, you're just bopping along in your life and something happens, and now your situation is different. But you would like to go back, and participate in the activities that you used to do.
All right. So in your career in public health, you were already using technology, and I suppose this was
Yeah.
telehealth, computer technology. Tell us about the experiences that you had there and how it would really impact the patients.
Well, so what happens in rural areas is, we can't always get physicians wanted to live in certain areas. And very few people, the only similarity I can find in California would be kind of, maybe Central Valley out towards the desert. It's very difficult to recruit physicians to live in really low income areas. In Montana, it was mostly towards the eastern side over by the Dakotas. It's difficult to get physicians to live there. And so this is back in about 2010, 2011, we were looking at, your telehealth initiatives. So people coming in and talking to a physician online, virtually. And so one of the interesting things we discovered is up along the High Line, which is, the top of Montana before you hit Canada, we put a robot up there in it was there for a while until we could find a physician who would want to live up there. And so it was there for a while, maybe a year. And then when we did find a human who was willing to live up there for forgiveness of, their medical loans, they didn't want him. They wanted the robot. They liked their doctor on the robot. They had formed a relationship with their physician on the robot. Now, the physician hadn't moved there, and they didn't want this new physician on a robot. They wanted the physician they had been seeing for a year on the robot. And they had formed a relationship with that physician. And here we went to all this expense, to hire someone and move them out there. And they wanted, the technology was still there. So they were like, well, why can't we just use that and still see Dr. So-and-so? And so I realized there was a lot more happening there than we had anticipated. We thought it was a tool that would just, bridge the gap temporarily until we could find a human, and everyone, would prefer a human. But for some reason, these patients, I don't know if he was very personable, charming, really used the technology well, but they preferred that physician. And so they were able to form a relationship. And so when I went off to study it, I wanted to explore that. What about it makes us as humans form a relationship with it? What makes us accept it and want to interact or engage with someone via this technology, which is, fairly simple.
And is the robot that you use, is it similar to what we'll be demonstrating, like a double R robot, or is it something, when people think of robots, they think of those
Yes.
like on the Jetsons.
Oh, Rosie was one of my favorites. Yes, Rosie. So those robots are artificial intelligent robots. So what we think of with those, it's kind of an embodied agent. It acts on its own. You ask it a question and it interacts with you. There isn't a person behind it. There are algorithms that control its movement, its responses. And so some people feel that the double robot, or the robots that I use in my study, aren't real robots because they are controlled by humans. And they're not independent agents. But what's happening with the telepresence robot that you see behind you, or I call them telerobots, there is a person controlling it, but the person is controlling it in real time, right? So I'm talking to you, it's happening real time, it's moving in real time. As I'm moving in the space, it's moving in the space. With the other robots, like you said, Rosie and the one you held up that act on their own and talk, they're still controlled by humans because there's an algorithm, right? Everything is coded. Whenever it asks this, it will respond this. When it senses that, it will move towards, there. So there are codes inside of it that are controlling it, but all of those codes and algorithms are done by humans. It's just not in real time. It's asynchronous, right? And so you still have humans controlling the beings. It's just at different times.
Okay.
And so one of the things that we're looking at, like I said, what forms this level of engagement and acceptance that you want to keep interacting with this piece of technology? Because the human is not really there, right? The human is somewhere else. And so that's what I've been studying all these years.
And so most recently, your studies took you to UC Irvine, where you pursued or for your doctorate. So tell us
Yes,
about your experience there. What led you, or how did you end up at Irvine, and what was your work there?
so when I set out to do my PhD, I wanted to see where I could study this. And so I checked with the University of Washington, I checked with the Claremont colleges and a couple other universities to see if anyone was doing this work and if there was somewhere I could go, and learn and find out more about it. And UC Irvine was the only university that I found Professor Mark Warschauer. And he just said, well, no one is doing that research and I'm not doing that research and I don't have money for that research. But if you want to do that research, I'll support you, which meant encourage me. I still had to work. And so I had to do research for other people and then do my research on the side. But I was used to work. And I said, great, let's find out. Let's find out if it really is, a usable technology, if it really will work, if children will really accept it, if it will help them. Let's find out. Because at the time it was just an idea and they were being sold, but we didn't have data on the outcomes, on the impact. And so it's been a pilot study all these years that we've been doing and figuring out, does it work? And if it works, for whom does it work? And so it's been a pretty great ride. I really, really enjoyed the PhD, but that's why UC Irvine. UC Irvine was open to it. There was a professor who said, sure, let's try it.
And so in the healthcare setting, how do the children use the robots?
So the way children use the robots, and I have a picture for this too, that I can throw up here. There it is. Oh, where did it go?
Sure, it's in there somewhere. Mine usually get lost in the screens also. So
Does it? Okay, hang on. I'm going to, let's see, where did it go? All right, let me knock down moped. Let me go back. Well, Abelardo, I lost us. Let's see. Oh, here it is. I'll stop it. I can't close it. Oh, there we go. All right. So am I still here?
yes, you're still there. So just click on share screen, then click on the image that you want to show. Then
there it is.
all right.
Here we go. Let's see. We'll make this bigger. It's not a great picture, but you see this little girl here on the left.
Yes.
So the child is at home on the computer, pretty much like we all are right now on this Zoom.
Could you make the image bigger? Just click on the magnifying glass up there.
Let's see.
Right there. Yeah. There you go. Thank you.
So you see the little girl is at home, like we are with this Zoom, and the robot is placed in the school. And so some schools have done it as simple as when the child is diagnosed with cancer and they are going to be undergoing treatments or whatever, and they're going to be out for a long period of time. And it's everything from cancer, heart disease, kidney failure, a lot of different serious conditions. Some teachers just pull their desk out and put the robot there so that they are still sitting next to the people they used to be sitting next to. And then whenever the child on the left wants to log in, they can log into their robot And so their friends will see their faces, they will talk to them, they will interact with them, they'll move it around the school, they'll do everything their classmates are doing. And that's how it works. So it was that simple a concept. Use the robot to attend school. What are the benefits? Does it work? Can it work in real schools, not in a lab, in a traditional school? And so all these years later, yes, it does work. And the children do use it and they like to use it. And some of them use it up to 6 hours a day.
And so these were stationary robots, or were they similar to what we have here?
They're all similar to what you have there.
Mhm.
So that's actually been a pretty important finding. It's the movement that matters. So as humans, when things move, we grow an attachment to it, especially if it's moving independently. And so the children, when their friend is in the classroom and moving around, they call the robot by the student's name. They don't call it the robot. They call it, like for you, they'd call you Abelardo. Hey, Abelardo, come look at this. Hey, Abelardo, get out of the way. Kids aren't always so nice, right? And so, I do observations as part of my studies. And so I watch the classroom and they yell and they call to their friends. And then the kid on the robot will go look at something. And this ability to move towards the things you like and away from the things you don't, the children really, really like that because they don't have to ask anyone to help them. And they don't have to ask anyone to move them somewhere. And so we looked at things like, people say, can't they Zoom? Can't they Skype? Isn't it the same thing? They just need to listen to the teacher. But a lot more happens in school than just listening to the teacher, right?
Oh, yeah.
There are things you want to look at. Sometimes you want to stare at a kid and see what they're doing and why they're doing it. But you can't do that if your camera is fixed. And in order to look to the left or the right, you have to say, hey, could you turn me a little bit to the left? I want to stare at so-and-so. Really check out that haircut. These little things that we do. And so this ability to move and turn and look at things, it makes a huge, huge difference for the children who are at home. And then for the classmates, it just kind of increases this acceptance of it as their peer, as their classmate.
And so you saw that it worked in a health setting, say a child at home.
Yes.
And actually being part of the class, learning from the teacher, interacting with the kids. Now, what took you to kind of widen the scope and to approach John Echeveste, our CEO at La Plaza, to see if this is something that could be used in a cultural setting?
So, I think the name of the talk is Building Better Robots. And you know what you need to build better robots? Number one thing, you need a team. And I met this amazing professor, Laurel Rick from UC San Diego, and we wrote an NSF grant. And so we are working together on the NSF grant. And that's my project. I'm the PI of that project, and that's for the children. And so that's my existing study. And so as we were writing that grant, we talked a lot about, different things and different applications. And she really, she's just an amazing person. And so when COVID-19 happened, we wrote for a University of California multi-campus research project and initiative grant. And we decided, she's the PI of that grant. And so we're extending for me from children to adults. And because of COVID-19, we wanted to look at which populations would really benefit from this use of technology. And so we came up with healthcare workers and, Latino communities. And so it's not just Laurel. There's Veronica Santos from UCLA and Tanya Morimoto and Jackie Eccles from UC Irvine and Kristen Wells from San Diego State. So it was a whole team got together, and we recognized, we wrote it in the proposal. In California, COVID-19 fatalities, Latinos make up 70% of all COVID-19 fatalities. And that statistic has held so strong. And so it's just still happening. It's still at 70%. We wrote the grant, got it funded. We're going to start working, developing a prototype here soon, working to create better robots, and it's still that high. So it's tragic. So when we looked at, which populations, we did healthcare worker safety, and then we wanted to see which communities, groups would use this as to maybe attend social events. Even as things reopen and we're coming to the tail end of COVID, there may be people who feel maybe not comfortable attending a crowded museum event, maybe not feel comfortable attending a graduation, a baptism. The baptism was crowded, all the baptisms this weekend. But maybe they'd still like to be there, and would they use it? And so that's what motivated me to email John Echevesta and see if we as Latinos could pilot this and see how it would work. Would we use it? How would we use it?
All right.
How would we like it? Which groups would use it? Which ages? I don't know. And so we're so excited to partner with La Plaza and explore and continue the research and grow it and see if we can, learn something.
All right. Well, we used it today. You were kind enough to bring one of the robots, the one behind me here, for us to test out, and so I gave it a spin this morning, and we'll go ahead and show it. La Plaza, it has reopened since last weekend. We're still seeing little people, a little bit of flow coming in because we're taking reservations, and we shorten our hours. We have time blocks, and we're really trying to find the COVID protocols to really adhere to the COVID protocols. But check this out. I'm not all that technologically adept, but I gave it a little spin, and let's check it out now. Here, let me go to the next slide here. See, like I said, I'm not all that good at this. Here goes, hold on. Be right with you here. Again, a little out of breath. Have to run up and down 3 steps, make sure that we're connected. So here goes. I'm sharing the screen again. I'm gonna go onto my browser here, and as you see, I'm gonna connect. So clicking on connect, clicking on allow, my microphone and my camera, clicking on connect. Cross our fingers. Come on, baby. And there we are. All right, we're in the admissions area of La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. We've made a reservation online. We've received a confirmation via email. We filled out our health questionnaire. We've come to 501 North Main Street. We've been greeted outside our doors by 2 people. One checking your confirmation, your reservation confirmation. The other has checked your temperature. You walk in, greeted by someone here at the desk, giving you some instructions, social distancing, follow the lines, linear wayfinding, and then keep your mask on, of course. I have mine all the time. You bring yours, make sure you wear it correctly. Then we start our walk. Here's Afro-Latinidad, one of our latest exhibits. Afro-Latinidad, Mi Casa, My City. It's the history of the Afro-Latino community here in Los Angeles. Put together by curators Mariah Shevnik and by Walter Thompson Hernandez. Okay, we're gonna walk forward here. There's a lot of text to read in English and Spanish. And as you see down below, we have the arrows to guide you as to where to go. So we're gonna slowly walk through, reposition ourselves, make sure we don't go into the walls. Going to take a closer look here at this first piece. So we just bring it down a bit. There's a control here in which we could lower the view. Let's see if it's working. Come on, get in. Could we lower? No, I guess not. Oh, there you go. It's lowering so we could take a closer look at this beautiful piece by Neri Gabriel Lemus. Okay, so now we're going to continue our tour. Make a right, a left-hand turn, reposition ourselves. A little tricky. I'm using the keyboards, the two little. There you go. Come on. Come on, go forward. I think it's about to disconnect again. Oh, there you go. Connected. So now we I guess the screen froze, but here we have on our left, on our right, excuse me, a timeline of important dates dealing with the African migration from Africa, of course, to the United States. We're taking a view of where we came from, where we already visited, and we're going around and see how far the timeline goes into the present day. Now, this first, the exhibit is laid out like a room, a home, an Afro-Latino home. We can't see typical, but it's one that we envision as being typical for California, for Los Angeles. And here's the kitchen, the stove. Let's look at some of the objects that we have there. Okay, it looks like there's a little bit of a delay. When I press now it's disconnected. Now it's connected. There we go. Okay, we're going to make a little left here, and here's some implements. A metate type thing, a grinder, and then to make plátanos fritos. Okay, I'm going to flip around here. You could see this tour virtually on our website. Go to lapca.org. In the exhibitions area, we have both a 3D tour and a video tour. So turn around here, continue on our way. This robot, of course, gives you the capabilities of controlling your motions at your own pace. And if there's somebody there in front of us who will talk to us, they can communicate with you as you're going through the tour. And this is both for static exhibits like this one, which really isn't a static one because there's there's interactives, there's video. See, there's a video right there. Here's the family room in which we have lots of photographs. These are all contributed or lent by community members. Okay, I'm gonna give it a little turn there so that we don't bang into that corner wall. Okay, a little bit of go forward a little bit more, and then make a left turn and look at these photographs. They're all, again, contributions from the community. Some vintage and others more contemporary. And I'll zero in on this one here because here we have my family on the top there. It's my father, my mother, my eldest son Michael, and his partner Sophia, two of their children who are Afro-Latino, Valentina in the middle and Mila on the left, and that's their son Odiseo. All right, so we'll continue on our way. I'm not sure if I had the sound on. Okay, here, let's boost up the sound. Okay, a little tricky there. All right, well, there you go. Nope. See if I could hear, because as we move forward, this is religious objects, some veladoras, of course, Virgen de Caridad, and a couple other symbols of religion found in Afro-Latino homes, not in all, of course, but in some, depending on what their national origin is from. Okay, we'll come a little bit further here. And as you see, there's social distancing stickers on the floor there. Here we have a video. I'm gonna make the little turn. Get a little closer. Okay, all right, and then we'll make a right. Good. All right, do you see that? Video, we don't hear sound, so I'm sure Dr. Ahumada could help us out on how to get sound. Maybe I need to. Oh. It was all on me. All right, we'll stop right there. Well, that was a kind of a creaky demonstration, but a lot of fun in doing it. And as you see, the controls were right on this keyboard, just these little buttons right here. And
Arrows.
and if kids could do it, I'm sure other people can.
That was great. I mean, you could see the video.
You could
That
see
was
the
good.
video, you could hear the sound, you could really, you did get a sense of being there. Again, today we're closed today, so there wasn't anybody else in the gallery.
Yeah.
Uh, but later on, I did run into a couple of the security guards and did a little demonstration with them. I couldn't get them to hear me
Yeah.
on the iPad, so maybe I didn't have the volume up or whatever. But I did call them on the phone, and we were interacting that way. So it was like three-way technology. But is this part kind of like what you envision these robots to be used in cultural settings?
So absolutely not, you have everything online right now. So when there is no one around, people can come online and just view. The robots really are for, when there are other people there, there's an energy to a museum, there's an energy to a community event because people are there. And you can hear people's conversations, commenting on the objects or the artifacts, and you could join a conversation or start one with someone else. And so they're really for that social interaction so that you could be part of this dynamic environment, right? You can still participate. I liked, driving through it right now. I hadn't seen that exhibit. So I enjoyed it just as is. But when there are other people, you get a lot more of a sense of what the people are doing and what the people are saying about the artifacts and the exhibit. I don't know, you may meet someone, and ask questions. Someone may be super knowledgeable. Maybe someone is a contributor of the pictures, like your family, beautiful family, Abelardo.
Thank you. Now in more of a live event type of like say here at La Plaza, traditionally in the summer we have salsa concerts.
Okay.
On stage, we have a dance floor. Uh, can people I know with the little movements, you could make them go back and forth,
Yeah.
side to side. So you could actually have them dancing. And I was having them dance with our security guards as we were talking about the different uses. Can more than one person log on to the same robot?
Yes. So you can take turns, but it can't be multiple people at once. So they're, designed to be an independent person. But somebody could log in for 20 minutes and right after them another person. So multiple users can access the same robot, but not at the same time. But to answer your question about dancing, I did have a 7th grader who attended the school dance on his robot.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So he really wanted to go and he had a date and everything. And they went to the dance. I don't know how they heard each other because, the music is loud, but he just wanted to be there and see everything and hear everything. And so they have been used to attend dances.
That's great. So this really it's connection. It's connection and participation.
And participation.
Yeah, using this technology to really be in the moment or surrounded by other people while I could say during quarantine, things are opening up. There's still some people that are reluctant
Yeah.
to go out or that are unable to go out. So do you envision like cultural institutions to purchase these robots and have them kind of like what people do nowadays with bikes that out on city streets
Oh, yeah. The Lime scooters.
yeah.
Um, I don't know. So there's several commercially available robots, and you have a double two. And I worked with that company. We wrote a small business grant, we at one time to try to improve the technology. It wasn't funded, but I did let them keep the paper. And so they actually have a double three now. And many of the improvements that have been made on the double three come from, our earlier research. And so as soon as I get settled, I'll be getting one of the new ones, but they have worked out, because right now you have a couple different components. You've got the camera and the voice box, and so when you have more pieces, there's more stuff that can go wrong, and this one has a independent head that's not an iPad. So will places buy them for access, so that everyone can attend? That's something we're hoping to study with this MRPI grant that La Plaza is collaborating with us on. And part of it is also we're going to add a telemanipulator. So it's an arm and a hand type feature for accessing elevators. And if you do have an interactive design where something needs to be flipped or moved, the participants can do that. And so we're hoping, to find out how that will work, or if you need to carry something, a vela, I don't know. I have no idea what kind of events we have, but if you want to hold something as you're moving around in the environment to participate in some type of, ceremony or cultural event. And so we think that will add something, but that won't be, for another couple of years, because, we still have to build it.
All right.
So, yeah, so we're hoping, to build better robots to increase social connectedness, and whether, organizations like La Plaza or other places, do adapt to it. I think that we're all a lot more aware and sensitive to illness and risk. And some people who are afraid to leave the house, and that's okay. Everyone has the right to watch out for themselves, but maybe we have technologies that will still let them participate and not put themselves at risk if they choose not to.
All right. Well, we have a question here from Estela Gonzalez on Facebook. Thank you for joining us, Estela, along with Laura Itarralde from Calexico, California, who's joined us today. But Estela's question: are any schools that you know of purchasing any of these robots or anything similar like this?
Yes, I work with 3 of the largest school districts in the U.S., and they all have fleets of robots. So Los Angeles Unified School District actually uses a different model robot. They use a Vigo, but I have been working with them for 5 years. And so they do have them for students who need them. And so I'm excited to keep working with them. Part of our funding, we're going to develop a curriculum module on social robots. And so that's going to be for ages 8 through 10. So any teacher who finds herself with a robot in their classroom can access it, and then also have a learning component for the classmates to teach them about social robots in our society, and that their classmate will be coming on a robot. So everyone is a little bit more aware of the robots and the best way to interact with them. And when these robots are in the classrooms, the classmates have a ton of questions. Who built it? How was it built? How does it work? What's it made of? So many questions. So we're hoping to capture that in the module. But yes, Los Angeles Unified School District does have a fleet of robots, and so do 2 of my partner school districts back east. So some districts have them, not all districts have them, and not all districts allow them. I was actually called as an expert witness for a case where a family was denied use of the robot for their child by a school district. And so we're in this place where it's so new and it's so different that it really is per district guidelines, whether they're allowed or not.
Well, thank you. One last little segment of this is your work in supporting Latinos in STEM programs. STEM, of course, is science, technology, engineering, and math.
Yes.
And sometimes they add an A. What's the A for?
Arts.
For art. All right, good.
Then you have everything. So
what's your role? What are you up to in that?
Well, while I was getting my PhD, I noticed that there aren't that many Latinos in robotics in PhD programs. And it was interesting to me, just coming from, San Gabriel, growing up there. You saw the picture with my friend. I mean, my whole world was mostly Mexican American, some Salvadorian, some Brazilian, occasional mix, but most, all Latinos. That was my childhood. And 30 miles away over in Irvine, when I came back to get my PhD, I didn't find many, not in the PhD programs. And so I thought, well, let me see how this is. Maybe I'm just not, and I'd left for 20 years and then I came back. And so I thought, well, maybe it's just UC Irvine. Maybe it's just my program or what I'm studying. I wasn't sure. And so, to not that physically distant, right, from San Gabriel to Irvine. And I didn't see any Latinos, Latinas. And so I started the Latino Excellence and Achievement Awards, which is a dinner to celebrate graduate student research excellence and achievement. And so we started that in 2018, have this amazing committee of people. It was my idea. I asked the provost to call together some meetings, but we can all have ideas. Anyone can say, hey, let's paint the house. I think it'll look better. But it's the people who come and who help you paint it and scrape and everything else. And there was this amazing, amazing committee. Everyone had full-time jobs already. And they jumped in to form this dinner. And the first year we thought, will we even have 100 people? We weren't sure. And we had, I think the first year we had over 150. And then the second year it was like 300. And then COVID, we didn't have it in 2020 and we just had it virtually online for 2021. And we had Senator Alex Padilla who came on and gave a pre-recorded, congratulations message. And we had Ambassador Gaddy Vasquez, who was our keynote speaker. And if I can share one more image, I will show you the data that motivated the amazing committee to jump in, just to kind of give everyone an idea of, let's see, is it representation? And I'm sorry, I should have had this already. I should have had this all ready to go. There it is. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen and I'll show you this. So if you see this, I'll make it bigger. Is that pretty visible?
It's good. Thank you.
So this is the University of California 2010 to 2020 average. These are state-funded doctoral student percentages compared to the state of California's population percentages. And so many people, well, at least I didn't know when I applied for the PhD that it's paid for. These are state-funded PhD programs. So the state of California will pay for your PhD. You do have to work as a GSR, but for the most part, it is funded because you're doing innovative research that will benefit the state.
What's a GSR, please? What's a GSR?
Graduate student researcher.
Okay, thank you.
But you're guaranteed employment. So you work 20 hours a week, and then the rest of the time is spent on your studies. And so you do have to work as a graduate student researcher or a teaching assistant, but your tuition is paid, and you get a small living stipend for your rent. And so if you see up here, Hispanic, Latino, we, over this 10-year averaged 8.76% of doctoral students in the University of California. And I don't know if our picture is blocking it, but let's see if I can move this over. But we are 40.59% of the population. So even though we're the technically largest population group, we're only 8.7% of the state-funded doctoral students. If you look at other groups down here, we have white, they are 35.92% of the population or 36% of the population, but 40% of doctoral students. And then we go on down through the different groups. On the very bottom, you see we have international students at 27%. They're 27% of the state-funded doctoral students. And then we have, for some reason, domestic unknown. I don't know what domestic unknown is. And I have asked the University of California to clarify, because I don't know how you pass the GRE, get admitted into a PhD program, but you do not know your race or your ethnicity. And so these are 10-year averages. And so what I was feeling was actually true, right? We're not very, with such a small percentage, and with the fact that every University of California has a Chicano Latino Studies program, There's not that many of us in the other departments.
And you think it stems from lack of awareness, or what would you attribute it to?
Well, when I started the dinner, I'm going to show you one more slide on this. Let me see this one. When I started the dinner, I had tracked these patterns. I don't know if you can see this.
Yes, I can.
This is when you divide, this is called a representation rate. So for example, if a group makes up 12% of the state's population and 12% of the graduate students, they're at a 1 for full representation, because that would be 100%. So if you're 6% of the graduate students, but 12% of the population, you're at a 0.5. And you'll see here on the bottom line, we have Latinos. See, from 0.2, so in 10 years, it went from 0.2 to 0.26. That's it. That's the movement. When you look at representation rates, which account for what a large segment of the population we are. And then these are all the other groups here. So that's why I started the dinner. I wanted to see, I was told it's a pipeline problem. It's, people don't apply. And so I was, pretty much told it's a you problem, us, we're the problem. We don't apply, we're not interested, we don't want to. So we did the dinner and we asked every school on the campus to name an awardee. We showed them the data and we asked them to nominate someone from their department. And we thought, well, this way we'll see if they don't have any Latino students, then we'll know. And, if there are Latino students, then we'll see, what kind of research are they doing? Because you have to see it. If you're going to be a chemist, it would be great to see what type of work Latino graduate students are doing in chemistry. And so we just wanted to see, what crops up. Whoever is doing great work, we're going to show up and celebrate. Good food, good news, celebration. And we're doing amazing work. There's graduate research fellows, there's Ford fellows, Spencer's, like, you would not believe the amazing research Latinos grad students are doing at UC Irvine. And so I don't know, it's a good question. Why? I don't know, but the ones who are there are knocking it out of the park. And so it's a fantastic event. I'm glad, well, I started it and then I left. But those figures, the data, it highlights a real problem in higher education, and especially in California for Latinos. I think there are many Latinos and Latinas who would love to be scientists and engineers, and it's paid for. So income is not an issue. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure what the barriers are. It would take a lot more study. But for now, this event that I started is to celebrate the few who are there. So we come together as a community and we celebrate their achievement, and we want to create a historical, organizational memory of our achievement, because I think our narratives and our stories go beyond poverty and immigration. We're doing great science.
And great we are, and this behind me is proof of that. Here's a Latina from circumstances that a lot of us are from. Took something that was personal that happened to you and just ran with it and just came out with something incredible that I think is going to change people's lives. And the more people hear about these stories, such as yours, it'll give them the inspiration for them to pursue their dreams, whether it be in science, technology, engineering, math. And thank you for doing that, for sharing your work with us today, for continuing to do the research that will change people's lives, from early on to later. And we have a question here from Rodrigo Landeros about this. Instead of moving in like I did, can you zoom in?
Just if I ask my brother. Rodrigo is my brother. And he hasn't test driven one. Okay. But go ahead, Abelardo, you can answer.
I don't know. Can you move in instead of moving in the robot, can you zoom in with the camera?
You can zoom in, Rodrigo, and you can take pictures.
Oh, I saw the pictures, the capability on the using the phone, but I didn't see it on the computer.
Yes. So if someone's in your way and you don't want to push past them, you can Zoom.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just push them out of the way. Okay.
Excuse me, my turn.
Okay. Ala Katz Nelson. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. She's hi. Thank you for this talk. I'm viewing this from Massachusetts. I have a question about the robots and what it was like, Abelardo, to tour the museum. It was hard to see a screen through a screen through a screen, but could you read the text on the wall, etc., as you walked? Okay, in my experience, I was able to just see some of it. I really didn't take the time to zoom in or to get close or even to make it parallel to the text because I just wanted to give a quick demo. But I'll give it a try. And what do you think? Uh, uh, can people say the text that was in the on the wall? Would this have the capability of zooming in so that people could read?
Yes. So the children who use it are able to read stuff on the walls and read stuff on a dry erase board through zooming or placement. You know, dry erase boards do have a glare situation. But Abelardo, could people log in and test drive the double sometime?
How long are you going to let us use it?
Well, you know, I'm in Davis. So it's going to be a couple weeks or maybe a month before I can but you know, as we're collaborating on the research, it would be interesting to see if people wanted to log in and test drive it, and maybe is it Ala Katz Nelson, I think I know her, could come in and test drive it and then see if she can read things.
All right. Well, I am leaving my email address in the chat on Zoom and also on Facebook. Get a hold of me and we'll make it happen.
Fantastic. That would be neat to see if people can come in and have feedback.
That'd be
And
good.
actually, maybe I'd like to come in and see the exhibit.
All right. Thank you. What a question here or a comment here from Maria Concepcion. Maybe professionals need to mentor and get involved as you are with the youth. Some of us just throw ourselves into our work. Great work, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much. You know, that was the amazing thing about the committee. We do have such a strong work culture as Latinos. We just work. And so I said, we're always going to be busy. There are always going to be issues. There's always diversity, equity, and inclusion issues in the fight and everything else. What if we just take a night off and we look up from our work and celebrate each other? So she's right. We work a lot, all of us. So that's how the event was funded. But we do need to kind of look around and see, you know, how we can help other people move into these spaces. To me, academia is wide open. You know, I think I mentioned to you, I'm the first Latina PI of a national robotics initiative grant in the state. And so where there are challenges, we see opportunities, right? So you saw the bars, how mismatched they were from 40. There's going to be a ton of firsts.
All right. And you're the first PhD, I think, no, I think we had Dr. David Hayes Bautista here, but you're the first female PhD Latina here in Casa con la Plaza. So thank you so much. Thank you to all of you that tuned in. We have from Mr. Teso Somok, what are the robot human salient boundaries? Where are the limits of fishiness?
The limits of,
I don't know. Look in your chat.
okay.
Teso Somok, maybe you have a typo there. I don't know what fishiness is. But we have Estela Gonzalez said, I would love to test drive it and say, Estela, please get a hold of me. And Mr. Tesosomak says, yeah, fishiness. So maybe you could define fishiness.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm not familiar how we're operationalizing fishiness. What are the robot human salient boundaries? Asco? Like Rose? Fuchi.
Fuchiness. There you go.
Is it fuchiness?
Fuchi, it's CH, Mr. Tesosomo. Anyway, thank you so much. We'll get to that question once we think about it. We'll get back to you,
Yes.
Mr. Sosomo. Thank you all for joining us on In Casa. This is Wednesday. On Friday, we have coming up this Friday Lupita Infante, honoring a family legacy. Lupita is the granddaughter of the great Pedro Infante, the daughter of Pedro Infante Jr., also a singer in his own right. She'll be joining music journalist Beto Arcos in a conversation and then possibly a performance. And then next week, of course, we have our cooking demonstrations. This time, albondigas with Chef Ivan Vasquez from Mate Restaurant in Torrance. That's Monday, April 26th at 3 p.m. And then Wednesday, the return of Dr. Gloria Arjona, another PhD. Frida Kahlo, Crossing Borderlines presentation, 7 o'clock next Wednesday. You could check them all out on our website, lapca.org. If you didn't catch this entire presentation, we have been recording it. We'll be posting it on our YouTube page at La Plaza LA. It'll stay on our Facebook page as well and on our website, LAPCA. Thank you again to our sponsors, Kaiser Permanente and SoCal Gas. And that's it for tonight. Thank you so much, Veronica. This was really a lot of fun. I learned a lot, and thank you for your work.
Thank you, Abelardo, for having me.
All right. Well, buenas noches a todos, and
Buenas noches.
bye-bye.